You're listening to Locked On Now NHL, local experts on the biggest stories throughout the NHL. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday morning. On today's show, Monday in the NHL had more teams stay undefeated and others continue rough slides to start the season. Our Locked On NHL hosts are here to help break down the biggest games and the hottest starts to the season on Locked On Now. Let's start with Monday's biggest game.
The biggest game.
The Florida Panthers remain undefeated and improved to an impressive 6-0 on the young season by beating the Arizona Coyotes. A pair of the third period Arizona goals did give Florida a scare, but 5 different goal scorers helped get the Panthers a 5-3 win. Locked On Panthers has the full story on how it happened.
It was humidity versus desert, cats versus dogs, and undefeated versus winless. Hello, everybody. This is Armando Velez from the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, and the Florida Panthers just defeated the Arizona Coyotes by a final score of 5-3. This was a game that was dominated mostly by the Florida Panthers really early on in the first period, where they outshot the Arizona Coyotes 11-1, but the Arizona Coyotes were actually leading early in the game 1-0 after a giveaway by Aaron Ekblad and Mackenzie Weegar, and they got one goal on their first shot of the game, and then the Florida Panthers score 4 unanswered. Jumbo Joe gets his first career goal as a Florida Panther on the power play. Frank Vatrano gets his first of the season. Aaron Ekblad gets one on the power play. Jonathan Huberdeau, 5 points in the last 2 games after talking about Jonathan Huberdeau not really getting involved, but the Florida Panthers still winning games. The Arizona Coyotes made this a little bit interesting at the end after a few turnovers for some goals, and also Spencer Knight not having the best day, saving 15 shots on 18 attempts by the Arizona Coyotes. But hey, the Florida Panthers didn't give up many opportunities for the Arizona Coyotes in this game. So defensively, they played great with the exception of a few turnovers in this one. So the team, what you can take away from this game is that great teams find a way to win regardless of what the opposition is, and the Florida Panthers did just that. They were down early, they score 4 unanswered, the Coyotes get one back, and then they top it off with an empty net. So to listen to my recap of the 5-3 victory over the Arizona Coyotes, make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, your first listen of the day.
On the other bench, the Coyotes are still winless despite a good effort to try to get back into Monday's game. Our Locked On Coyotes host tells the Arizona side of the story.
Robin Leano here with Locked On Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes take another loss, remain winless with a 5-3 loss to the Florida Panthers. But hey guys, I am not sad about this one. We kind of knew that the Coyotes would struggle against a great hot Florida Panthers team who is remain undefeated at this point still. So I can't complain too much about this. Arizona actually came up with the first goal of the game late in the first period before it was tied by Joe Thornton. And then Florida goes on, scores 3 straight through the game. But then somewhere 2 goals in 34 seconds from Liam O'Brien and Phil Kessel makes it a 4-3 game late in the third period. Coyotes sustaining a lot of pressure. Very well looks like they could potentially pull off the comeback, but unfortunately, they're unable to. They pull Vejmelka for the empty netter, trying to bring out the extra attacker. Pressure is sustained, but only lasts for so long before Florida Anthony Duclair able to capitalize, get it into the empty net to give Florida that 5-3 win. But again, I'm actually decent. I'm doing okay. The Arizona Coyotes looked pretty decent this game, and they fought back. This is what I want to see from the Arizona Coyotes. We'll break all that down on the next episode of Locked On Coyotes, as well as look at what they have to do for the rest of their road trip. They have Tampa and Washington coming up later this week. We'll talk all about that throughout this week on the Locked On Coyotes podcast, so be sure to find us wherever you get your podcasts.
The best performance.
Hold up.
The Capitals scored 7 goals tonight, so they're really the best performance of the night as a group. But the stars for the Caps were TJ Oshie with a hat trick and Alex Ovechkin, who added 2 goals of his own. With plenty to be happy about after topping the Senators 7-5, here's Locked On Capitals.
In a game straight out of 1985, the Washington Capitals survived the Ottawa Senators. Hello everyone, I am Tyler Kuhl, the insider to the insiders and the host of Locked On Capitals. The Caps win on Monday night 7-5 over the Ottawa Senators. I went into this game thinking it was going to be a good battle between a young Senators team and a veteran Caps team, and all of a sudden it turned into a gosh darn gong show. You have goals being scored right away. It's 4-1 for Washington. You're like, okay, this is a good start. They have this one in hand. All of a sudden, here comes Drake Batherson leading the Ottawa Senators back, and it's 4-4. And then Ovi scores after almost putting a guy into the third row. TJ Oshie scores a hat-trick goal that was so good, a girl threw a bra on the ice. This game had everything in it. Had hard hits, had no goaltending, had all the goals in the world. Oh my goodness gracious me. Everyone thought that high scoring was going on in the NHL. This is ridiculous. Somehow, though, the Caps hold on to win 7-5 in a game that had 3 goaltenders play in it. Thankfully, Ilya Samsonov was able to make enough saves to get the win. Boy, my heart can't handle all that stuff. That game was nuts. They're 4-0-2 now at Washington, but oh my goodness, thankfully it's early on in the year because hopefully by game 82, we can get some defense around here.
The Calgary Flames took the win against the New York Rangers 5-1 yesterday. Here's your Locked On Rangers host with the analysis.
Hey, what is going on, hockey fans? It's John Schick with Locked On New York Rangers, here to talk about the Rangers seeing their 4-game winning streak come to an end at home at the hands of the Calgary Flames. Just a rough night overall for the Rangers. Really could never get anything going, and they lose 5-1 to Calgary. And as much fun as the 4-game winning streak was, and as much as it beats what happened to the Rangers last season with them starting 1-4-1 last year and 4-1-1 this year, I think a question that I certainly had in the back of my head, and I'm sure a lot of you Ranger fans had it in the back of your heads as well, is how long is this formula sustainable, where the Rangers go out and they more or less get outplayed by the vast majority of their opponents this season, but they end up stealing a win simply because of the excellent play of Igor Shesterkin? Well, apparently the answer to that question is exactly 4 games. Now, Igor, of course, did not play in the 4th and final of those 4 wins, but you get the idea here. The Rangers were kind of making a habit of not really doing a whole lot offensively and relying on their goalie to save their bacon and just kind of snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. And on one hand, it's really nice to win games like that, to be able to grind out some wins even when you don't have your A game. On the other hand, I think the Rangers were almost due for a night like this where, you know, they just couldn't produce any goals, couldn't create any offense, and Igor Shesterkin, as great as he's been, he is still a human. Tonight was a reminder of that, and the Rangers fall 5-1, but we're going to be talking all about this on the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Make sure to check it out. Thanks.
Coming up, our Locked On NHL hosts help wrap up our look around last night's NHL action on Locked On Now. Welcome back to Locked On Now NHL. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Now let's turn again to our Locked On NHL hosts for a recap of the rest of the action around the NHL on Monday.
Let's go around the league.
Now, the Panthers aren't the only team in the NHL still without a loss, and the Carolina Hurricanes improved to 5-0 on Monday by taking down the Maple Leafs at home. Our Locked On Hurricanes host tells us how Carolina has jumped out to such a hot start.
Hey there, Caniacs. Jared Ellis here, host of Locked On Hurricanes. And tonight, the Carolina Hurricanes took down the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-1 to remain undefeated. They're now 5-0-0. And the big story heading into tonight's game was Freddie Anderson playing against his former team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he looked outstanding in tonight's game. I think the team really rallied in front of him to make sure that he had a good game. And they did. I think they got caught off guard a little bit by how fast Toronto came out in the first. But after that, they really bounced back and really just controlled the game and played Hurricanes hockey for the most part. Really, Ian Cole was also playing in his 600th career game. Andrei Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho extended their point streaks to 5 games. They've notched at least 1 point in all games. And now the Hurricanes are looking to continue their homestand and undefeated streak heading into Thursday against the Boston Bruins. So make sure you check out Locked On Hurricanes on all streaming platforms to hear my thoughts on tonight's game, as well as heading into Thursday against Boston as well.
Toronto has now lost 4 in a row, and the most recent losses have not been close. Locked On Maple Leafs has more with what's going wrong for this Toronto team.
Leafs Nation is in absolute disarray. I'm Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs, and the Toronto Maple Leafs drop another here early in the season. They fall to the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 4-1. It is their 4th loss in a row. Tonight started off a little bit different. They finally scored the first goal for just the second time this season, but unlike the first time, it did not result in a goal. In fact, that was the only goal that they were able to score, that one coming off the stick of Austin Matthews, his 200th of his career. But then our good pal Freddie Anderson shut the door for the Carolina Hurricanes, stopped 24 of 25 shots directed his way tonight, en route to getting the victory over his former team. And Toronto has been outscored now 18-6 in this 4-game spill early on in the season. This offensive juggernaut, Toronto Maple Leafs, has not lived up to the billing. They have not learned from last year's mistakes. The top unit still not getting it done. The power play still flailing. And oh yeah, turnovers galore. I will chat about all of this in a lot more detail over at Locked On Leafs.
The Stars didn't score until the third period of Dallas's 4-1 loss to Columbus. Locked On Stars tries to explain the attacking woes for his team.
Can someone please give Braden Holtby some help? Hey everyone, Dane here with Locked On Stars, coming to you after the Dallas Stars 4-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus, Ohio. Dallas with their worst performance of the season so far as a team, giving up a lot of sloppy mistakes, a lot of sloppy turnovers in the defensive and neutral zones, which resulted in some great offensive opportunities for the Blue Jackets, which they capitalized on. And on the other side of the ice, Dallas could not get anything going against Elvis Merzlikins, who gave us one of the best goalie performances we've seen all season. Dallas unable to crack his armor until the end of the third period, when they had to pull Braden Holtby out of the crease, and Tyler Seguin was able to finally find the net. But other than that, not a whole lot of good happened tonight for the Dallas Stars. Thankfully, they will have some chances to rebound this week with games against Vegas and Ottawa at home on Wednesday and Friday. Lots to talk about on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Stars, so be sure to tune into that as we look to see what the Dallas Stars can do to improve this season.
That was Locked On Now NHL. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday morning. For more analysis on all of your local teams, make sure that you check out your local Locked On podcast. Locked On, your team every day.